Breakups are rarely as simple as some people pretend they are. It's not as easy as making a clean break, just wishing each other well, and then moving on like nothing ever happened. The truth is that the emotions you feel for each other and that attraction that initially drew you together, it doesn't just disappear. It lingers on for months or even years after the breakup. The problem is, though, is that your ex isn't going to just send you a text saying, hey, just wanted to let you know that I'm going crazy thinking about how much I want you. Okay, bye. No, instead they're going to hide it, they're going to deny it, and they're going to pretend like you don't exist. Sometimes they'll even act like the complete opposite is true, like they find you annoying and repulsive. But it's in their behavior where the truth is always going to come out. Now, as you probably know, I'm Brad Browning, and as a breakup coach, I focus on attraction first, because attraction is the spark that creates connection. It drew you and your ex together initially, and it's going to be what draws you back together, even after all you've been through. And after coaching thousands of people through messy, confusing breakups, I've identified 6 undeniable signs that your ex is still attracted to you. Now we're going to start with sign number 1, which is orbiting. Now, one of the most common signs that your ex isn't really over you is that they'll try to get closer to you, but in a very specific way. Now, of course, they won't want to be obvious about it, but they will be drawn to you like a magnet, and they won't be able to help it. Now, all this means is that your ex is going to orbit you from a safe distance, but chances are you will be able to notice it over time. So first off, social media is going to be a great way to catch them doing this. So here's a story for you. One of my clients had no idea that her ex was still interested because he just totally froze her out. He'd send her one-word texts and leave her on read for days. But then her male friend noticed that her ex was watching all of his stories, even though the ex didn't follow him. And what we realized was it was because the friend would sometimes post photos of my client. Now, it's pretty sneaky stuff, but that was actually what tipped her off that her ex wasn't over her, and eventually, after a lot more work, it did lead them to getting back together. Now, of course, social media is only one way that your ex will orbit. They're also going to keep an eye on you through mutual friends. They'll go to places that they know you frequent. They'll reach out to you and then they'll pull away. And it's all an attempt to get access to you without tipping you off to their feelings. Because if they let you know how they feel, then you can reject them and you can close the door again. Sign number 2 they're still attracted is anger. Now, you may be surprised to know that your ex's anger often means that they are in fact attracted to you. And that's because anger is a sign of investment. We don't get angry if we don't care. So if our child runs out into traffic, we get angry at them because we don't want them to get hurt. We get angry if someone steals our car because now we can't get to work. And we get angry at an ex because we still care about them. Now, of course, if you cheated on your ex with their dad and you drained the joint checking account and then skipped town, obviously this doesn't apply. In those kinds of situations, their anger is obviously well justified. But you will know, of course, if that's what applies to your situation. But outside of situations like those, if their anger towards you seems over the top and lasts for a long time, and especially if they call you up to tell you how mad they are, then you can bet that they are still attracted to you, or at the very least, they're still deeply invested in you emotionally. And again, this is another way that your ex can have contact with you without risking as much. If they were to call you up to have a friendly chat, then you'd quickly realize that they're interested. But if you call them up to start a fight, then they get to talk to you without worrying that you know how they feel. Now, this can be something that's happening subconsciously for your ex. Often they won't even know that this is why they're reaching out to you. But they're protecting themselves from their true feelings because admitting their attraction would be too painful. So don't call them out on it or anything. Just do take this kind of thing as a good sign. And now, sign number 3 is that they aren't moving on. Now, this one it's more of a long-term sign, but I've often noticed that there's a sort of bubble around some people who are still interested in their exes. Almost like they're stuck in one place. And it happens for an obvious reason. They don't want to move forward and change their life because they're still considering taking you back. So not only would it be a waste of time to make big changes, it could also lead to a situation where their life changes so much that there's really no longer a place for you in it. So this manifests in your ex in a few ways. Maybe they date again, but their relationships are shallow and brief. Maybe they don't move forward with their plans to, move somewhere else or go back to school or change jobs. Maybe they turn down opportunities. But it's because they're stuck waiting for you to come to your senses. Or they're unwilling to date anyone else because they're still seriously considering taking you back. Sign number 4 is holding on to your belongings. Now, this is tied into number 3 that we just talked about, but it is important to note because it shows up much earlier in the breakup timeline. So if you left your favorite sweater at your ex's place and it's been weeks and they still haven't returned it, or if they've still got your book, your coffee mug, that piece of jewelry you accidentally left behind, that is actually a good sign. Now, sure, some people are just lazy, but let's be honest, if they wanted 0 reminders of you, all those things would have been in a cardboard box on your doorstep, the week after the breakup. So when your ex actually holds onto your belongings, they're typically doing it for a reason. It's because those items keep a part of you in their world. It's because they want to hold on to the thought that they are going to see you at least one more time. And on to sign number 5, which is jealousy. Now, jealousy is really the ultimate confession of attraction. So if you post a photo with a friend and suddenly your ex is texting, who's that? They're not just curious, they're obviously jealous. So they might fish for details about your dating life. They might complain to mutual friends that you're moving on too fast. They might get cold or passive aggressive when you start dating again. But here's the thing. People who have 0 romantic interest in you could not care less about your dating life. So if your ex is still getting jealous, even a little bit, they're not fully over you. And this is actually one of the reasons that I recommend you try to date a little bit after your breakup if you do want another chance with your ex. While that kind of thing can upset your ex temporarily, it will ultimately make their feelings clear to both of you. And often when your ex hears that you are dating again, or even just talking to other people of the opposite sex, they'll show up on your doorstep and they'll ask you for a second chance. Because that attraction they feel is just going to go into overdrive when they see that you might have someone to replace them with. And finally, sign number 6 is if you score over 70 on my free quiz. As I'm sure you know, understanding your ex's feelings is paramount if you are hoping for another chance. And the best way to make that happen is just to take my free quiz at breakupbrad.com/quiz. It's confidential, it's simple, it takes only 5 minutes, and it will shed some light on how your ex is feeling towards you. The quiz is based on my 15 years experience as a breakup coach, dealing with honestly just about every single situation you can think of, and some you can't even imagine. Again, if you want to try the quiz for yourself, it's free and it's at breakupbrad.com/quiz. All right, so while it's nice to know that your ex is probably still attracted to you, you're gonna need more than just that if you're hoping for a second chance. You're gonna need to take their attraction and push it into overdrive so they can't think about anything else. Now, I explain how to do that in another video that you can find in the description below or up here in the corner, so you can watch that next. Because reconnecting with an ex is all about opposing forces. Your ex is drawn to you by their attraction, by their love for you, by their hopes for the future, but they're also pushed away by their fears. Rejection, conflict, maybe recurring issues, and heartbreak. So your goal needs to be drawing them towards you while minimizing their objections to getting back together. What I'm trying to say is that just because they're attracted to you, it doesn't guarantee that they want you to swoop in and sweep them off their feet. You definitely need to take things slow, be smart, and follow the advice that I've laid out for you, both here in my YouTube videos and in my best-selling program, The X Factor 2.0, which you can find out more about at breakupbrad.com. And that brings us to the end of this one, guys. I appreciate you watching all the way to the end, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.